Hello and welcome to Gotham Sound TV. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Nick Huston. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Super. Are you recovered from Las Vegas?
I'm recovered. We did 30 videos?
At least.
Yeah.
It seemed like 30 videos in 2 days and a lot of new stuff.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, yeah, that's why we're here. We're doing a NAB 2017 roundup. This is really not detail about the gear. This is what we're excited about. And so let's get right to it.
Yeah, and well, before we get right to it, the one thing we will mention is we're having our own pseudo NAB thing here at Gotham Sound in New York that we call the Gotham Expo, which will basically be all of the things that we're going to talk about today and that you've seen in the videos, or most of those things available here with the manufacturers that make them, where you can come and see and touch and feel for free and have some food and beer afterwards, or whatever cocktail is your choice.
Right. Poke and prod the gear and the people who sell and make the gear.
Right. Exactly.
Good.
Yeah. That's the 13th of May.
What time? 11.
11.
11.
Yeah, 11 to 4.
Yep. And then there's beer afterwards.
There's beer afterwards. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. I feel like I look very tan in this video. I like the white balance of this monitor. All right. Anyway, let's get to NAB. So in no particular order, kind of sort of broken up.
Well, it's the order that Jared told us to do.
All right, in Jared's order.
Yep, in Jared's order. Timecode products first. Nano Locket. I did the video about the Nano Locket.
You did the video about the Nano Locket.
So I think we can say that the theme of NAB 2017 is timecode boxes that are smaller.
Cheaper.
And cheaper. Mm-hmm. I think we can dish a little bit. Everybody knows this. This is kind of in response to Tentacle Sync. Mm-hmm. They disrupted the industry a little bit.
Yep.
And yeah, so smaller and cheaper, and more affordable for everybody. So let's take a look at the Nano Locket. So first of all, it's got the ACN, the ambient clock network. I'm very excited about the incorporation of that. Mm-hmm. I wish it had a display, but there are buttons that do different things on it. Mm-hmm. That make it a master or allow it to be jammed, mm-hmm. Make it a slave. I've asked if they could etch the instructions on the back.
That would be cool.
Although I got a funny look when I asked that. Apparently there's only 3 buttons and one of them is power. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, excited. Mm-hmm. And this is shipping now. We're selling boatloads of these. They're flying out the door. It is exciting. I think it is very cool that Timecode is on a network. Mm-hmm. Not Wi-Fi and not Bluetooth, but in the case of ambient clocket, and also the Timecode Systems one, it's a long-range, data-centric, very robust network.
Right, it's in 900 megahertz.
They're not compatible,
right.
We should say, but it's meant to carry timecode reliably.
Yeah, and so we have them in store. We've actually gotten hands on them. Mm-hmm. They feel quite solid. They're aluminum chassis.
Yeah. Some high density in there. There's a battery in there. They have a power for autonomous use.
And I think it's 30 plus hours per charge.
And you charge it via USB. Mm-hmm. And I'm genuinely asking this question to see if you know. I don't know. Is there external power possible via the LEMO 5-pin? Do you know?
I don't know.
So you got to charge it by USB.
I think so.
All right.
And it does. So you can set it up using the buttons, and I know that you can also connect it to a computer if you want to change specific settings. But typically you don't have to because you're just jamming.
Computer would be via the master locket. Like you can't.
No, you can plug it in via USB, at least according to the manual.
Mm-hmm. Right, okay. So the USB is for data and power. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. Yeah. And there's have we seen a download link or?
I have not seen anything. I've only read the manual.
All right. We will look into that and we will put links and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. All right, Master Locket Plus, also from Ambient. This is not out yet. It seems that it's the next platform for the Master Locket. Mm-hmm. There's new lens metadata that's sort of a lot more updated more frequently that this can keep up with, and that seems to me why they moved to this platform. Other than that, and then future possibilities which they haven't discussed, it's pretty much like the Master Locket.
Yeah.
And that's not shipping yet. All right, and then sort of dovetailing in ever so swiftly into the Timecode Systems, UltraSync.
Yep.
So, it's funny, everything has its potential downside.
Yep.
People are complaining about the mini BNC. So first of all, let's say what it is. It's a sync box that's got the wireless connectivity. Like we said, it's got that long-range network.
Yep.
It's its own, they call it the B-Link protocol, I think, yeah. And does timecode and also can do word clock or gen lockout of the other BNC, or it could double timecode,
right.
Which is kind of cool. Has a display.
Yeah.
And is sort of similarly priced. And there's a special going on now, by the way,
right.
which we'll also have links on. So it's 2 of those and their hub.
Right, for $9.15, which is essentially like getting 2 of those UltraSyncs for free when you buy the hub.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, both ambient and timecode systems, I think it's worth pointing out, work in the same way, where it's the hub that's kind of, it's the hub between the long-range network and Wi-Fi, so that you can control it with an iPad or Ethernet in the case of both of those products, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So people think the mini BNCs are a hassle. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, it comes with 2 mini BNCs to BNC, and then they will be selling an assortment of the mini BNC cables to Red or to Alexa or to to whatever camera you could possibly want.
And they're mini DIN connectors. I mean,
yeah, they're reasonably standard.
We're getting them, we're stocking them up, and
Yep.
we'll be able to make adapters. And then SyncBack Pro 360. From Timecode Systems. This is exciting for those people that are shooting VR pictures. Again, it's that B-Link wireless timecode protocol, gives status updates, can actually make them go into record all the GoPros, unlimited amounts of GoPros.
Yeah.
Put one of these on each of the those rigs.
Yeah.
And I forget the name of the rig.
Isn't it called the?
Is it the 360?
It's the SyncBack Pro 360.
Yeah, but the rig itself, the 360. Can you go back to the picture? 360 Rise. Yeah.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, Jared. Just a quick aside. I know we don't have a lot of time, but the guy that invented that, it comes from technology that he sort of knew about from working on Navy ships.
Huh. Oh, that's cool.
Where they needed to kind of survey 360 around a ship. And then he had this idea of if we put a bunch of small action-oriented cameras around a kind of 3D printed thing. It's not 3D printed anymore, but anyways, it's his patent. He's a genius. He's a really nice guy. Met him at NAB. And the SyncBack 360 allows all of those to start and stop with the same time code.
Yep.
And metadata. So
and be remote controlled by the
B-Link protocol and the pulse. Yeah. And anyways, there's software that the 360 Rise company makes that stitches it all together automatically. It's really cool stuff. All right, you got to talk to Mo's Gear.
I got to talk to Mo's Gear. So Jared, we're going to skip ahead to the Qubit. So the Qubit is the tiny little one at the very bottom. It's the tiniest one. It is also probably the least expensive timecode generator to come out of NAB. It's about this high, so it's an 1.5 inches high.
Yeah, it's tiny.
It's super tiny.
It is the size of a 9-volt.
It is the size of a 9-volt. It's got BNC in and out, and then it's got a Hiroshi for power and for charging. It has an internal battery that lasts 4 hours. So that typical use for this would be for those camera people that just hate having sync boxes on their cameras. Doesn't matter how small it is, they just dislike it. So that's potentially what that's for.
Now, people give a lot of crap because it's only 4 hours of power. I don't think that's a liability. I don't know. I guess I'm not understanding why they're upset.
I think it's totally great if you're using it on a rig that has external power already. So like if you're using it on an Alexa Mini, which clearly is going to have some kind of Anton Bauer or other proprietary battery powering it, and you can tap into that. It's great. I think for the smaller DSLR rigs, where typically you're just powering the DSLR, it might not be so great because the charge time is almost equal to the time it takes. Time. Yeah.
But I would, if that were me, I would literally take a 9-volt and I'd wire up a Hiroshi with clips.
Yeah.
And then the rubber bands that you used to have for braces. They just rubber band the 9-volt and the thing. They're the same size.
Yeah, it's true.
And it would run forever.
Yeah, it would definitely work. And it's still really small. It's still one of the smallest things out there.
Right.
So it's neat. That is coming out pretty soon in the next couple weeks. So we'll have some at the Gotham Expo that we can show off, hopefully. And then I'm going to skip ahead to the Tentacle Sync, Jared, and then we'll come back to the rest of the Moz Gear stuff. So the Tentacle Sync E is the new version of the Tentacle Sync. It is going to come out later this fall, September, October, something like that. Third quarter is what they said. And what makes this different than the other Tentacle Sync, other than the new kind of sleeker looking chassis, is that blue light means it has Bluetooth.
Right. So
you can connect to it and all of its friends with your phone to view status and control things. So you're not going to jam time code via Bluetooth. It doesn't, there's not an interconnect that kind of hubs through your phone. But you can, if you have, 10 Tentacle Syncs out there and you're worried that, maybe one of them is going to die or something's happened to it or however, you can very easily on the phone just tap into it and you'll see the status of all 10 of them.
Sure. I think it's cool. I think Tentacle Sync, and it doesn't enter our world so much, but Tentacle Sync has amazing syncing software that I think is really worth looking into. And I think, I think in a way that's probably why they don't feel threatened by all of the introduction of this other small timecode gear, because their syncing software is really amazing and is completely compatible with all of that stuff.
Yeah, and we did a demo of the syncing software, which really, I started using it about 10 minutes before we did the demo, and it worked surprisingly well.
Cool.
With just 10 minutes of practice. So,
awesome.
All right, so we'll go back to Moz Gear and talk about two of their other products. See in the back we have the P10 and the Mongo. The P10 is an Electret microphone preamplifier. So it takes a signal from an Electret microphone, like say Sennheiser MK2 and brings it up to line level. So that's what that does. It's a neat little problem solver. And same thing with the Mongo. So Mongo means monitor to go. And I thought that was a clever name.
Okay.
And basically it's got an unbalanced TA3 input that goes to a stereo mini for headphones. So it's kind of, hey, we need to monitor this. Let's run a line and have a drop, and you get this tiny little AAA powered headphone monitor.
Yeah, that happens all the time. It's a real problem solver.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yep. So all right. So moving on, let's talk about wireless.
Yeah.
So
we got the Electro Duet. All right, I think that this is really cool. It's on the surface an in-ear monitor system, and really, you would think has very little to do with location sound. But I think there's some big things going on with it. First of all, it's a half-rack transmitter.
Yep.
It is 4 audio channels that go into it, and they can be Dante. In the literature, I saw the Dante is an option, but anyways. It can be 4 analog ins or Dante in.
Yep.
And it is 2 carriers out, so 2 stereo or 2 dual mono carriers, however you want to think about it. It's digital transmission, digital reception, obviously, and the receiver can tune to it can be sort of programmed to be left channel, right channel, dual mono, any kind of mix. Their band split is basically the UHF spectrum, as we know it now, 470 to
608.
608 or something like that. Yeah. And yeah, very, very cool. I think it's a preview of Electro technology to come. In fact, I think Carl said that, in the video. Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting, and I think that there's all kinds of creative ways that we can use this. First of all, your boom operator will love you if you choose that. I think for boom monitoring, you can do all kinds of things. You can have boom 1 on one side of the dual mono, and maybe the mix on the other, and then for your other boom operator, boom 2 and the mix on the other side, so that they can control what they're listening to. The receivers have a limiter built into it, so you're less likely to cause damage to your boom operator's hearing. It sounds phenomenal. Did I mention that?
No, but and it's digital, right?
And we did mention that. It sounds really good. And so, for client stuff, it's great. And of course, by the way, it could be like instead of, you could do comms on one channel. The other use, which I think is kind of cool, is as like a camera hop. So like if, I was just talking to a customer, hi Jerry Stein, just talking to a customer, and he could get a transmitter. He can have one for his single boom op, and if he needed to have dual boom ops, he can use just one carrier for boom 1 and boom 2. The other carrier could be dedicated to wireless camera hops. Obviously, and Jared, if you show a picture of the receiver again, obviously the receiver is not really set up for being on a camera. Like that volume knob is not defeatable. I guess if I were using it, I would get a little set, hex thing and unscrew the volume thing. But and it's not a locking mini. But the flexibility of the spectrum is really great, and it's a true diversity receiver. So yeah. Anyways, I'm totally psyched about it. It's not shipping yet. Shipping, we think, in
September, October. It's pending FCC approval.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that people took away from that, they allowed people to do walk tests with it, and they said the range on it was impressive.
Right, and that's not an easy thing on the NAB show floor. Everybody's showing off their wireless product.
Yeah. I should also mention, if anybody who's watching has questions or comments or things that they want to know about what we're talking about that we're not covering, please feel free to put it in the comments.
Yes.
And we'll either cover it live or we'll get back to it as a comment on the video. Okay, Shure Axient.
Yeah, I think, first of all, this is a new system from Shure that takes a lot of the features from its bigger Axient brother. The price is reduced. It's got a lot of the same features, which for those that don't know, Axient are frequency, diversity, or certainly that potential. It's got the receiver itself has quadversity, meaning it can take its signal from 4 different antennas. The other thing is it's also wideband, broadband, entire UHF usable spectrum. True digital transmission, forward link control, so meaning that you can control the transmitters from the receiver on a kind of Zigbee-like protocol. Again, this kind of long-range protocol. And, I think the big news, in addition to quadversity, where it's truly sort of using DSP and mathematics to kind of get the strongest signal out of 4 antennas, is the body pack. If you look at the micro body pack, there is no visible antenna.
Right.
There are 2. It's first of all, there's no corners. It's all sort of like round. It's like the roundest possible square you can get without being a square or a circle, which is great for putting on skin. But just from a pure design perspective, they took the idea that you're going to put this on actors' skin. Now, like the physics of this are, actors are effectively, and so are you and I, not to single them out, giant bags of salt water. And that's death for RF propagation. And the RF designers at Shure have taken this into account. And so that they have two antennas internally, not visible.
Yep.
One antenna is kind of tuning itself and sampling the reactance of the human body's conductivity and its impedance, and adjusting the properties of the secondary antenna. I guess it would be the other way. The secondary antenna is the one that's attached to your body, and the primary antenna is the one that's propagating out. But it's on the fly in a continuous loop adjusting those properties. And so even though digital in general has a lower output power, I think it's 20 milliwatts for this for the micro. You really do. We did a walk test here that we got from the inside of our offices, the rental department, all the way out on the street.
Which is about 50 feet if you weren't counting the concrete walls.
No, it's more than that.
More than that.
But to the ukulele guy.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, to the corner.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so like hundreds of feet through concrete. It sucked every single ounce of RF that it could, and then it started to break up. It's an amazing technology, and I just love the idea that you take something that's, like how do we get around this obstacle, this bag of salt water, and turn that to your advantage.
And it's also, this is their new Axient Digital, so it uses a different amount of the spectrum, so you can get, they had two different modes. Right, so they had one where you were getting like 15 or 16 per TV channel, and then one where it was like 47?
High density mode, the 47 per TV channel, right. The high density mode, I suspect for, if you're working in a studio, like I always think in terms of sound card, and I'd be a little afraid to use high density on a sound card. But yeah, for lots of the world that uses wireless mics, high density mode is amazing. Yeah.
Well, and the amazing part about that is when you talk about high density mode for their analog version, you had to do it at very low output powers. With this, when you do high density, it's the same output power. It just is compressing the signal, so it's using a much smaller bandwidth, which is neat. No reduction in range. Okay. Wizzycom.
Yeah.
So Wizzycom had a couple of neat things there. They've got some new antennas, both transmit and receive. What you see on the screen, the top row are their two new receiver antennas. The one on the upper right-hand corner is their passive receiver antenna. The cool thing about these what's different about these is, number one, finally they have the, what do you call that, hollow? Skeleton frame.
Skeleton.
Yeah, you have the skeleton frame, so it's better in the wind. And then both both receiver antennas go from 470 megahertz up to 1.3 gigahertz. So they're really looking forward at seeing, well, where's the white space that we can take advantage of for some of their future products. So one of the things they're looking at in the US for their future products is maybe going into the 900 megahertz range.
Right. Well, there's 900, certainly that's open to not just the ISM band, but also some Part 73 broadcasters can use that. And then there's talk of 1 point something gigahertz that they're trying to see if, previously it was open to like airplane test pilots or something crazy like that. Anyways. Can I say my favorite feature of the antennas?
Sure.
Which, kills me that other manufacturers haven't gotten this. Can we show the antenna again, Jared? Sorry. The yoke.
Oh, yeah.
And when you put it on a C-stand, and you raise it up, but then you got to tilt it slightly down because you're not interested in what's like on the horizon. You're interested in sort of like stuff
what's
lower.
Down.
The built-in yoke is huge. It's great. Anyways.
And so the receiver the receiver antenna also has a version that has their RF amplifier.
Yes. Which
is very very low noise, very good amplifier.
And I think that dovetails nicely to the MAT 288 because the amplifier on the receive antenna the gain can be remote controlled from the MAT 288. Yeah. So tell me about the MAT 288.
So this is their basically their RF distro, multi-coupler combiner and then distribution. So you can have 8 pairs of antennas going into it, and then distributed across 4 different pairs of outputs, and then it's can be remotely controlled over Ethernet. So all the functions can be remotely controlled. You can enable and disable certain antennas with the push of a button, and as you mentioned, you can remote control the gain on the antenna. So rather than having to go to the antenna, or maybe maxing out the gain of the antenna and then attenuating it, you can actually control it at its source to give you a kind of better thing.
Yeah, I mean, we set. I had my first hands-on experience with the 288 a couple of weeks ago, and it's just such a huge problem solver.
Yeah.
And one of the guys from Jetwave Wireless was saying how every rig that they send out, they'll put a 288 on, just because whatever the producers throw at you. Oh, you need another zone. This is mainly for reality type productions.
Yeah.
You need, you want coverage out in front by the door, no problem. It's just a zone. Use the push button to turn it on and off. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And then the other thing they have is their transmit antenna, which is very much the same as their receive antennas, except it has a built-in 1 watt amplifier on the transmit antenna.
1 watt amplifier? I thought it was quarter.
No, it's 1.
All right, we'll have to check the specs.
Yeah, check the tape. Right. Leslie says it. Okay.
There might be a US version that's
Maybe.
not 1 watt.
It's quite possible. Okay, so the MCR42, there's a new backplate for it, which is pictured there. Basically, the big thing there is that it has a USB for powering and for data. So rather than having to program the MCR42 with infrared, which can be a little slow, a little janky, you can use USB. That will also take 5-volt power to power the MCR42.
Oh, that's cool.
So you could use, what they mentioned is if you are using a sound device's 688 with an SL6, you're out of power ports, you can plug that into the USB port and get your power from there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. All right, more wireless, audio limited.
Yeah, I got a chance to speak to Kish about this, and new receiver for their digital wireless, 2 channels. It sounds great. It has good range. It's got that audio limited quality of great audio, and it's 2 channels.
That's the DDX 1010.
That's it. Oh, there it is, right there. Yeah. It's really good. I was as excited as I was about that. I was also excited about their rack mount distribution. It takes 4 of those guys, and it doesn't have to be audio limited receivers. It can be any brand receiver. You won't get the telemetry and the control, but it is a handy way to distribute it, and it's got RF distribution in it, of course, and
it's got a Dante option.
That's right, and Dante out, so it really neatens up your stuff.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting.
Yeah, and it looks like these are going to be available this fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's what Kish said.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, what do we have? Oh, Zaxcom. So Zaxcom had some really cool stuff with their wireless, building on some of their existing products. We all know about the ZMT. And they came out with 2 new versions of the ZMT. One is called the ZMT HM, which is a plug-on version of the transmitter. This one has the antenna built in. They took away the antenna. So this one is really designed to be used on the bottom of a stick mic. So for news reporters, things like that, where range is not at a premium, and you just want something that looks nice and neat and light, compact. Going to be available very soon.
June, I hear.
June.
Yes.
Yeah, June. So that's that. Full phantom power. Full phantom power, but primarily designed for the E&G world.
All right.
Yep. Moving on, and probably the thing that people are most excited about in terms of the Zaxcom wireless is the ZMT Phantom.
Yes.
Yes. And what's cool about this is it's the same exact form factor as the ZMT. And it outputs full 48-volt phantom or variable phantom, so it can be down to 12 volts, up to 48 volts.
Tailor it to whatever mic you're using,
so it outputs via the LEMO. So the idea with this is that this mounts up on the boom pole, right next to your microphone, and you can eliminate the cable entirely.
Right.
And you're actually saving a little bit of weight, because you're taking out this, really relatively robust copper cable and replacing it with a very light transmitter.
That's
at the
right.
top.
And it uses the same rechargeable battery system that the other Electro has, and right.
Yep.
It's that Fuji battery.
That's that Fuji, what is the NP50?
Yeah.
And you get with phantom power on, you're going to get about 4 hours out of that.
Yeah.
So it is something to manage.
It's pretty quick to change, and you definitely want to dial in the appropriate voltage for your mic, the minimum that your mic will be satisfied with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was neat. And then the other thing that XCOM came out with is their new RX12R, which is essentially a rack mount version of the RX12, which I think is awesome for carts. So in 1.5 rack spaces, you get 12 receivers. So what's nice about this, besides the fact that it's rack mount, is it has all the same features of the RX12, but it's got a little bit more real estate on it. So you actually get full-size XLRs, you get full-size BNCs,
Nice.
you get you get USB control of it, where you can plug an actual laptop into it if you want to. You get RF pass-through on a BNC. So it's a really neat thing, and it's the same price as the RX12.
Wow, that's huge.
And that's coming this June as well.
Awesome. Let's stay on the XCOM little bender here, and we got the Diva 24 and the Mix 16.
The Diva 24 and the Mix 16, very anticipated, and basically XCOM was showing off working models of both at the show. So if you've got the if we got the Diva 24, 24-channel recorder.
Now, no Dante in this.
No Dante. For digital, they're using AES. I think they've got 24 channels of AES in on it.
Nice.
And that's coming in July. A bunch of channels of analog. As you can see, there are 12 knobs on the front. This is it interacts with your computer. The touchscreen works great. It's going back to the the Diva style interface rather than the Nomad. But just a ton of power. I think it records to 3 media at once. All the normal XCOM stuff, but 24 channels, so double that of the Nomad 12. And then the Mix 16 is the mixing surface for that. It's going to be released shortly after the Diva, so probably within a couple months. But basically, 16 faders all in one 19-inch wide chassis, so it would fit in a rack unit.
Yeah.
And full trim control for everything, and it does. It connects to the Diva, and can send controls with that via ZaxNet.
It looks great, and I love the idea of 16 because 16 is the new 8, I think.
Right.
So it gives you room to grow.
All right.
Aton. Let's do Aton.
Do Aton?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got our first look at the Kantar Mini, which was pretty exciting. It was smaller than I thought it would be. I knew it would be minier than the X3, but it was actually quite a bit smaller.
Yeah,
and low profile.
It makes more sense in person, I have to say.
Yeah.
When you sort of can get your hand on it.
Yep.
It makes more sense.
Yeah, but we've talked about the X3 kind of at length, but what is it? 16 channels.
Yep.
16 channels, 10 inputs.
It's got 10 inputs. There's multiple mixes it can record. I'm still not so sure about that, but I'm hoping that that'll be logical after people start using it.
Right, and there's it works with the Kantar M2, and they're also coming out with a new box called the B box, which I don't think is pictured there, but basically it's a small rotary control panel,
which you can assign to be different functions, right? Like trim or fader or whatever. Yeah, that's
so
cool.
Rather than using, if you wanted to have it so that you had all your trims on trim pots and then had your faders on faders, you could do that with the B box, and it mounts right to the front of the Mini.
Nice.
And 2 screws.
Nice. And is it only for the Mini, or can it work with the full-size X3?
Yeah, it works with the full size. I think it's the same protocol as the Kantar M.
Nice.
It's just in rotary knob form.
Yeah.
B box. Yeah, it's not an A box. It's B box.
B box.
Brian Trent.
All right. Sound devices.
Yep, sound devices. So yeah, the Mix PreSeries.
Yeah, I really like this, and I think first of all, this is not for everybody, obviously. There's a number of compromises. It doesn't have a timecode generator in it. It's still a little unclear how you make a mix and control the trims.
it's done through the touch screen.
Yeah, it's a touch screen. It has built-in wingman, so there is Bluetooth control, which is great. The real exciting and interesting thing for me is the preamps.
Yeah.
Limiter in the analog domain, and it's also, I think, it goes to show how far the electronics has come in the intervening years, because they're sort of saying, and from what I heard, it does sound very close, that the preamps are equal or equivalent to, not identical, but equivalent to the 788T.
Yeah.
And I really like the 788T preamps. So that's it's interesting times.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting sign of things to come.
Right. And I should also mention it's got USB connectivity, so if you're doing podcasts or you just need a quick way to get audio in and out of your computer, it's great. We're seeing that shipping May.
Middle of May. Yeah.
Middle of May. Yeah.
They've already pushed it back by about a week. Originally, it was supposed to ship this week, and now it's looking like it's
next
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it's important to note, as you said, it's not for everybody. I think that this is really going into the DSLR market, or quite a bit where there's people who are one-man bands where they need recorder to be for their DSLR, for their camera, to be very flexible, and then also might need to record some voiceover. It's also not a bad option for for a backup.
So it's a great option.
It's cheap as all get out.
Yeah.
I think it's $8.99 for the 6-channel version, and it's $6.99 or $5.99 for the 4-channel version or the 3-channel version. So it's really inexpensive, and also for doing ambisonic recording, the 6-channel version has 4 mic preamps. 4 mic
preamps, which is totally worth mentioning, that you can digitally gang the trims, and so you have to be very precise when you're doing ambisonic recording, and this is perfectly suited for that. So.
Yeah. And you can do the timecode input on it, so you can timecode stamp it and all that.
Yeah.
And it's small, so you can mount it underneath the camera.
Yep. Nice. All right. Dante. All right. So I don't think we actually videotaped filmed the SDMD4.
Yeah. How did we miss that?
Well, it's easy
it was
to miss
hidden, wasn't it?
Well, I'm appropriately whelmed by the MD4, but I am not like super excited about it, and I'm just being honest. I think it's a great way if you need to get 4 mic preamps in and out of a Dante network. There we go. It has DC power. I hope that this is a kind of harbinger of good things to come from them. Yeah. I would like to see more preamps. I'd like to see maybe some of the Cashmere preamps from the mixed PreSeries put into this, and I'd like to see some PixNet control. But it's not, if you need sound devices quality right now with 4 inputs and outputs, definitely that is a good product for you.
Yeah, it's a great companion to the Mix 16, especially for people that have analog, not the Mix 16, I'm sorry, the 970.
You just made a new product up.
I just did. No, it's a great companion to the 970. So if you're using, let's say, an analog board and you're using up all of your analog inputs on the 970, well, there's 4 more that you can have.
Yeah.
And then there's 4 more outputs that you can have as well. So if you need to route something via Dante, you can route 4 more out. And there's a headphone jack on it, and it's DC powered.
It's DC powered. Yeah, it checks off a number of unique boxes, but I want to see what's next.
Yeah. Mid-May.
For
couple weeks.
Product, yeah.
So May-ish.
May-ish again. Okay, good. All right. Well, then the next up is Studio Technologies. Now I'm going to spend. I can only spend a minute on this because otherwise I'll spend an hour.
Right. Yeah. That's a whole nother live stream.
But basically, I was excited to see Studio Technologies come out with a series of intercom belt packs that are natively Dante. So certainly, if you're looking to put together an ad hoc communications system where you just need to be able to talk to people from here to there, and you're already doing a Dante network, this is a total no-brainer. Just route audio from one place to another. There's multiple sort of talkers and listeners that these things have. It handles side tone locally for you. Now they do in their 5422 rack unit, that is that can be the heart of a Dante intercom engine. That does all of the kind of conferencing and mix minuses that you need for a full-blown intercom. But you could also roll your own.
Yep.
Either in software or in, we have hardware Dante mixers that can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a clever product. It's clever price points. That stuff is shipping now. I'm not sure about the 5422, but the Dante sort of intercom.
But you could do it with a PoE network switch.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing. Yeah, they're all PoE. So it's super easy.
Yeah, one Ethernet cable, done.
Yeah, and you can make a little party line out of it. Yeah.
And Ethernet cable is dirt cheap.
Dirt cheap, and sound quality is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's as good as the headsets will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not compressing or anything. So yeah, excited to see that.
Cool.
All right, and you got to see the DPA device. We're moving on to the miscellaneous category.
The device.
Yeah, so the device.
So the DPA device is an audio interface for Mac, PC, or iOS. And basically it's a super high quality 2-channel preamp that has microdot on it that's compatible with pretty much any DPA microphone. So if you're somebody that wants to do a high quality recording of, say, a concert and you want to throw up a stereo pair, you could use a pair of the 4018s. If you are somebody that is doing an interview, sit-down interview, and you have to use your iPhone for some reason,
sure, yeah.
You could use a pair of 4060s.
Yeah.
So it does that natively, and basically, it's just the interface. Super high quality digital preamps, used with DPA stuff, available late May.
Yep, and they're working on an Android version.
They're working on an Android
I can confirm it does not work with Android because I tried to get it to work with my S8 for about 20 minutes and gave up in frustration. So.
Well, not yet. Soon.
Right,
Coming soon
yep.
to the theater near you.
Yep. MK2 Elements action mic you saw.
Oh yeah, so this was one of the more fun things. Not necessarily something that is necessary for our customers, but for people that use GoPros.
It's come up with our customers where they're using GoPros as crash cameras
Right.
and they need a scratch track or something.
Right. So this, the GoPro has always had a waterproof case or an element-proof case, and when you put the GoPro in there, it's like putting the microphone inside there.
Yeah.
And so you never get any sound.
Right.
So what Sennheiser did was they developed the MK2 Elements mic, or the action mic, and they basically designed a case that you then that the microphone's mounted on, that the GoPro can go into, and then the microphone can plug in there. And once you seal the case, no water or elements can get in there. And it also has enough room for a spare battery, for a SyncBack Pro,
Nice.
Inside the case. And they have inserts and all that things. And it was just fun. They had a tank of water there that you could dunk the mic in. So we did that a few times.
Oh, that's nice.
It was one of the few things that I saw water. It's actually available now. It's available now, shipping.
Cool.
So there we go. And you got to see some of the new stuff from Phonak, which is actually some of the things that I'm more excited about, because I'm getting tired of the old earwig technology.
Yeah, the 216, the Phonak 216 stuff is getting long in the tooth. So we're excited by the Roger, the 2.4 gigahertz Phonak earpieces, but it definitely has its limitations. Range is always a limitation. And so what Phonak have done is they've come out with two products. You can use them separately. One is the repeater, which basically takes the signal from the transmitter and repeats it. It'll also take it from another repeater. So, we were involved in a reality show where we had to get talent queuing on 4 flights of a brownstone. The repeater would have been perfect.
Yep.
Now, again, nothing is without its penalty. There's no free lunch. And so 2 milliseconds per repeater of latency is added.
Right.
Which I think is not a big deal.
Right.
Unless you're adding like 50 repeaters, I don't think it's a big deal. If you're adding like 4 or 5, I understand that that's 8 or 10 milliseconds of latency. But the talent isn't hearing themselves. So it's not going to make them crazy in this application. It's not like a singer that's hearing, their monitors.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be okay for 2 milliseconds per hop. It's really for communications, and it's a way to increase the range. I think it's super cool. Yeah. This brownstone install would have been so much easier and so much less stressful if we could have done it that way. The wall pilot is intriguing. I get their use case scenario for the wall pilot is for assistive listening, like in museums and tour guides and stuff. So the idea behind the wall pilot is you are wearing an earpiece, or in their sort of bigger scenario, like a neck receiver thing. And when you pass the wall pilot, it switches you to another transmitter. That's more local to wherever you are. So picture a tour guide in a museum, you pass the wall pilot, and now you're in this next room where the wall pilot is, and now you're listening to the loop of audio that's about whatever art is in the room you're in. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how I would use it in a reality or a broadcast context. But there's some intriguing possibilities. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, well, so in that brownstone scenario, you could, instead of having repeaters for everything, if you wanted to cut down on the latency, you could have multiple transmitters on multiple floors, and just when they pass that threshold, they get retuned to that floor's transmitter.
I like that, yeah. That's
or in, say, a broadcast studio where you have multiple studios side by side, you go from one studio to another, and then you have the wall pilot that brings you into that studio's comm system.
Next control room, yeah. That's great.
Or when you're going into the green room, it can, it could be just program that you're hearing, or it could be just nothing. They could just have silence.
Right.
So there's quite a few, for installation stuff, there's quite a few possibilities for the wall pilot.
Interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. So we know about the Rycote stickies. They're coming in 2 weeks. They're basically bigger, better with better. Not batter. I mean, bad. A word. A double dollar signs. I have a 6-year-old. I'm sorry. I'm talking. And they also have different cutouts.
Right. One they said was for the DPA.
The 4060.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're bigger. They're bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
And then let's see. The FreeSpeak.
FreeSpeak 2 is not new. It is cool. So and it also there's a few products that. This represents, I think. We saw a bunch of products that work in the 1.9 gigahertz DECT frequencies, and this is really geared towards those people doing, shows where they need, comms, like wireless belt packs, and particularly with zones, they're really, really good. You can set up, instead of the belt packs pairing to a base station, they pair to the antenna. And so you can have multiple antennas in multiple zones and really increase your coverage. So definitely, very, very cool technology.
Cool. So I think that was a lot.
That's a lot.
So we've made individual videos of all of these things with a lot more in-depth detail information. I think they're all also available on our website. They're all available on our website to check out, to purchase, to really look at the specs. And if you have any questions about these specific things, you're always welcome to call us. You can comment on the YouTube videos. We look at those quite a bit.
Yeah.
And let's see. And I think that's it for NAB, right? We did it. That was 2 days in a nutshell. How did we do, Joe? What time is it?
We were all right. I would just remind people about the Gotham Expo. May 13th, you should come. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have all of these manufacturers and more, and beer.
And beer.
And food.
And food, yeah. Gourmet sandwiches.
Yes.
From a truck. Pickup truck.
Yes. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, guys.